Well, good morning. I want to thank everyone for coming out. We have some folks here. Let me start out by introducing them just so we know who's here. We have some team from the Red Cross, fairly obvious. And we have our fire chief. We also have Diego Arancon from the firefighters. And we also have our chief of public safety, Roger. Ebner? No.
Ebner.
Yes. I know. I wanted to make sure I pronounced it right. So we also have some folks here from planning if there's questions. And what we wanted to do was give an update on all that sort of occurred over the last 2 days with respect to this property. And let me just say first, this was my old Senate district. And so I actually know a lot of these folks and know this street actually very well. The first call I got on this was actually, I think, before even our first responders. That's how many people in this neighborhood have my cell phone. But at the time, it was just about a loud noise on Georgia. And then as we sort of tracked, of course, we found out what was going on. So our team is going to go over the specifics of the fire. I just want to touch on the overview of how our city responded. And I do want to say that I'm grateful to everyone who is involved in dealing with the situation. It has been a tremendous example of how we can come together as a city, how we can work as one city across departments and across jurisdictions to do what we need to do in an emergency situation. So I want to give a special thank you to the folks in our firefighter department, to Diego Arancon, to the American Red Cross, to our emergency management division for coordinating these efforts, and our senior affairs department for housing folks, and also to our planning department for helping folks get the resources they need through St. Martin's to help them find shelter going forward. So also, all the city employees who were involved in this stepped up. They worked late, they came in early, and they did whatever needed to be done to make sure that these folks were taken care of in their time of need. Now, on Sunday night, 29 people were brought to the city's Manzano Mesa multi-generational facility to be housed overnight through yesterday afternoon. At that facility, they were also given food, and they were met with representatives from different social service agencies to help them. That office, it's a multi-gen center, so it's run by our senior affairs department, and they were provided all accommodations needed, of course, for pets and for children. We even coordinated cages for the pets and so forth, and so the folks did a really good job making sure that even animal welfare was involved. And yesterday, St. Martin's was deployed through our planning department to provide those families who are not able to return to their homes with short-term accommodations. And also, 2 families were able to return today. So this is a true example of the power of working together as a city. I also want to mention that we rarely use our emergency management program, and that's a good thing, but we did. And the reason why all of these things were able to be coordinated in the short term is because we actually trained for this and we planned for this. And this morning I was at the Manzano Mesa Center and talking to the staff there, and they felt very prepared because in August they had been through a training for exactly this, for a citywide fire situation. And so that runs through Roger's office, and just could not be more appreciative of the fact that we actually trained for situations like this. And sure enough, a couple of months later, we actually had to use that training and put it to use. And so with that, what I want to do is dive into a couple of the details. So we're going to start with our fire chief. Go ahead and share an update on the actual fire. Yeah.
Good morning, Fire Chief Paul Dow. I just wanted to discuss a couple of items with the structure fire that we had on Sunday, and then offer some fire safety tips to the public. So the fire occurred about 4:30 p.m. on Sunday afternoon. The Albuquerque Fire Department dispatched a single first alarm assignment, that's 12 apparatus, and over 30 firefighters. It was an 8-unit U-shaped single-story apartment complex, which is just behind us, and the fire is still undetermined by the fire investigators. When the units arrived on scene, they had smoke and flames showing on the back side of the structure. The building was evacuated and the fire was controlled in less than 16 minutes. No injuries to any occupants, although we did have one firefighter that received a knee injury, and he's going to make a recovery. Some fire safety tips that we wanted to offer to the public. First off, if you are living in an apartment complex, it's very important that you meet with the landlord and you identify any life safety features in your building, such as where your smoke alarms are at, if your building has fire extinguishers, where the exit stairwells are. Those are really important, and you want to make sure you know those. How to get out of the apartment is very important. We want to make sure that the public also understands that there is an ordinance for smoke alarms. So it's required that you have a smoke alarm inside your bedroom, outside your bedroom, and on every level of your home. So for an apartment building, it's the requirement of the building owner. It's their responsibility to make sure there's smoke alarms installed. And if you're renting the apartment, it's your responsibility to make sure you maintain that smoke alarm. What we ask you to do is test that smoke alarm at least once a month. And that's a great time for you to do fire evacuation drills with your family as well. If you have a smoke alarm, you also need to replace those batteries. And we ask that you replace them at least once a year. And as far as replacing the smoke alarms, they're only good for about 10 years. So most of the time we tell the public, when the smoke alarm starts to turn like a dingy yellow and it doesn't match the ceiling color, it's usually about 10 years old. You can take it off the ceiling or the wall, look on the back of it, and it'll have the date it was manufactured. If it doesn't have that date, it's older than 10 years old. So please replace it. If you have any questions, you can go to cabq.gov/fire, and we have other safety information there as well. If you also need to speak to our fire marshal's office, you can call them at 764-6300 if you have any other questions.
Thank you, Chief. And Mr. Aaron Cohn, you want to share a few words?
Thank you. Good morning. Thank you, Mayor Keller, and all the staff throughout the city for your support of the men and women on the front line who serve the Albuquerque Fire Department and likewise the IAFF. As firefighters, we're defined by our commitment to our community. That commitment doesn't end at the end of our shift or the respective call that we just responded to. And what I'm announcing today is, in order to assist these families and do our part, be part of that community aspect that I described, we once again have opened an account and partnered with Rio Grande Credit Union, and we established a Displaced Families Fund, much like we did in 2011 for the Royal Crown apartment fire. You can go to any branch starting today, donate what you can to help these families get back on their feet, find a new place to live, and that's going to be going on till April 23rd. We appreciate your support. Once again, Mayor Keller, thank you very much for your support.
Thank you guys for what you're doing on this. And Roger, do you want to add anything about just this process and how it played out? Or just do questions?
I'll just do questions.
Okay. All right, Red Cross, want to add anything?
Just want to say it's been a pleasure to work with the city and with Roger in particular to make this an easier process for the families, the 7 families that were displaced here.
Thank you. Okay, questions?
What is the status of the structure right now? Because I know you said some people were able to return.
Mm-hmm.
The structure itself that you see on this side, it'd be 412 Georgia, does have some damage to the backside of the structure, so it does appear that some of the apartments towards the front of the building have received mostly just smoke damage. The ones on the very back of the structure have significant fire and structural damage as well, so they won't be able to return for some time. It could be days, weeks to get back into that particular building. The one that's on the other side, on the north side of the structure, those tenants are allowed to go back into that building.
The structure's okay. What about the possessions of the family? Because I know smoke damage can really do a number inside a home, even though the structure itself is fine. How much of essentially their lives is salvageable?
Most of the building on 412 Georgia, the contents inside were significantly damaged, if not just from the smoke and the fire, then from our extinguishing practices, the water damage as well.
As far as fire safety, how up to date was the apartment? Was there fire extinguishers? Were there smoke alarms?
From what we understand, that there was smoke alarms inside the structure. Whether they were functioning or not, I do not know that answer. The last time that the Albuquerque Fire Department was at this apartment complex was 1997 to check on smoke alarms. So we have not had any contact with the property owner or the occupants since 1997.
We did check, to our knowledge too, we have not had calls into 311 or into our code enforcement division on this property in many years. So to the best of our knowledge, we weren't aware of any issues.
What was the boom?
That would have been the actual gas meter, but actually also that's a good one that the chief should answer, not me.
So I know there was some confusion about the gas meter and the involvement in the cause of the fire. So again, our investigators determined that the gas meter was not the cause of the fire. However, when we were extinguishing the building, there was a point where the flames did compromise the gas meter. That caused damage to the meter and caused it to rupture. When that happened, then of course the gas was consumed with fire, and our crews had to shut the gas meter off before they can continue to extinguish the fire. So if anybody heard a large boom, that's exactly what it was. It was a rupture on the gas meter.
Just to be clear, the burning gas, the natural gas, that was secondary to the structure fire.
Yes, sir. The fire started first, and then that compromised the integrity of the actual gas meter, which caused that rupture.
Yeah, and actually the first text message I got was about the boom. Neighbors heard a loud boom.
Chief, you said you hadn't been there since 1997. Is that like okay? Is that a good sign that you hadn't been there since 1997, or?
Well, of course, we would love to go to every apartment building as often as possible to ensure the safety of the civilians. Unfortunately, we do not have enough inspectors, so we rely on the public to give us information, especially with apartment complexes. Again, if anybody has any questions about maybe safety violations that are in their apartment complex, we strongly encourage them to call the fire marshal's office. That's 764-6300. If you feel like there's a fire safety hazard, or if you don't have smoke alarms, that's something that we want to know about, and we will make sure we get an inspector out there.
All right, any others? All right, I think we're good. Appreciate it. And if anyone wants to talk to folks after, of course, welcome to. And thank you again for all our first responders. Thank you, Enrique. So I don't want to highlight you in front of all the cameras, but thanks for what you did.